Hello and welcome to Florida Politics Now, where we talk about everything that's going on at the Florida State Capitol. We just wrapped up week 3. I'm Cody Butler, joined by Jessica Foster at WJHG in Panama City, Jim Gula at WWSB in Sarasota, Jacob Murphy at WCTV here in Tallahassee. So it was a busy week. We could tell one thing for sure in week 5 of this legislative session is that Republicans aren't on the same page on many of the issues, including an emergency fund. The emergency fund's about ready to expire next week, and that has been a controversial issue. So let's take a look, see what the Senate did this week.
It was a contentious debate as senators voted down party lines to extend a controversial emergency fund through the end of next year. Democrats say Governor Ron DeSantis is abusing the fund, spending billions of dollars unchecked.
Two, the bill passes.
The Senate's now sending the House a bill that would extend the Emergency Preparedness and Response Fund through December 31st, 2027. It was created in 22 and is scheduled to go away at midnight this upcoming Monday. The idea is to have money set aside for the state to use to prepare for and respond to disasters that already wasn't budgeted for.
But that doesn't solve what we need to do to make sure that the state is prepared to respond to whatever may come in the future.
The legislature's put more than $4.7 billion in the fund since it was created. The state's used it to respond to hurricanes like Ian and Milton, as well as its immigration enforcement effort.
We all know that the fund has been used for purposes it shouldn't be used for, and that we need to have oversight.
Governor Ron DeSantis has renewed his immigration emergency order nearly 20 times in the last 3 years, keeping the emergency fund open. Democrats call the account a slush fund for the governor.
We are not doing the people's money the right way when we don't put guardrails on how money is being spent.
They want to see more safeguards for it. Minority Leader Lori Berman tried to amend the fund so the governor would have to ask the legislature for more money when an emergency is extended.
I want our governor to be able to respond quickly to emergencies, whether they're natural, technological, or man-made. But I can't approve offering a blank check to the executive branch.
Senate Appropriations Chair Ed Hooper told senators they're gambling with the Republican infighting.
Are you willing to take that risk? That body may be mad at us, that the governor may be mad at somebody and doesn't want to deal with that amendment? I am not.
The legislature has the power to end a state of emergency, and Democrats filed a resolution that would end the one on immigration. They've also filed bills to limit emergency renewals without legislative oversight. Those bills haven't moved, with the deadline in the upper chamber for first hearings next week. Hooper says potentially that's something for the next legislature to take up.
There's still ample time for them to have plenty of conversation about how this process is working.
Now, both chambers do have to agree to extend the fund, and so far the House hasn't put it on any agenda. If the fund does go away, the money in it will end up in the state's general fund. At the state capitol, I'm Cody Butler reporting.
And the House did put it on an agenda Thursday night. It's going to be in a transportation subcommittee on Monday, but it's not exactly what the Senate's proposing. They were actually putting in many of the guardrails that the Senate Democrats wanted. So it does look like that this fund is going to expire, at least temporarily, this week.
Coming about because they were using it on immigration enforcement? Is that where people started getting concerned about it?
Yeah, the immigration enforcement's really where the concern is. Everyone agrees that this fund is needed to respond to hurricanes, but it's the immigration executive order that has been in place for nearly 3 years that has many people concerned. And the House version that they're going to be talking about on Monday specifies that this can only be used for natural disasters. So they are putting in that guardrail so it can't be used for something like immigration enforcement, that it is used for what it was intended to be used for, which is hurricane preparedness and response.
And Cody, with the money potentially moving to the general fund, as you mentioned at the end of your report, are there more hoops to jump through to access funds to the general fund if you're, say, the executive branch or the governor's office than this emergency fund?
Yeah, they'd have to go to the legislature to get that money. It's called the Legislature Budget Commission when they're not in session. And Senator Hooper said they've been trying to have that meeting for 3 months now. And so that was part of what said right before that soundbite we heard from, where if people are mad at each other, they're not going to want to meet. And so that infighting is kind of what's played a role on that. And so they are trying to avoid that. But again, we are sure. And actually the House is cutting the amount of money it's spending in their budget proposal. So, I mean, there's a lot of this that still needs to be settled.
Yeah, Cody, it seems that the blank check that the governor's had for such a few years is kind of coming to an end now. And it just sounds like even the Republicans are saying, hey, we need to be part of this and we need to have a say in how this money is all spent. Is that the sense you're getting up there?
Yeah, especially at the House. The Senate just want to continue the status quo to get through the end of next year. There'd be a new governor, a new cabinet potentially in place. And so and a new legislature and leadership in both chambers as well. So they were kind of trying to brush it off to the next one. But the House is taking a different approach. They are saying, no, we need these checks and balances now. They're limiting even what can be purchased in it. They say the House version that they're going to be talking about next week specifies it can't be used for aircraft, boats, or vehicles. So that kind of limits some of the things that the governor's been using this fund for, particularly on the immigration efforts. So they're really kind of trying to ring that in and kind of keep things in check. There'd be also reporting requirements the governor would have to do every quarter, or at least someone in his office. And so, I mean, they're really wanting more checks instead of how it's been over the last few years.
Cody, I'm wondering if some Republicans are starting to take their cues from some of the leading Republican gubernatorial candidates instead of DeSantis. Do you have any kind of sense of that?
Not quite sure on that. I just know that at least House Republicans apparently are not happy with the way things have been going with the immigration enforcement with this blank check. I mean, a report came out just before this came about that they had to renew this, that almost $100 million was used for one porta potty company. And most of those were for Alligator Alcatraz. So they're really trying to ring in that spending on this emergency fund. And so, but everyone agrees that they need this emergency fund because otherwise you do deficit spending and stuff like that. So this is kind of just things that they know we can't necessarily budget for. So they agree. There's agreement on that. It's just how the money has been used over the last few years, and they're trying to rein that in here now.
And is the governor responding to any of this? Is he trying to justify the spending that's been done, or is he laying pretty low with this?
So far, he's laying pretty low. I've asked his office for at least a statement, and I've not received any communication back from them. The governor's out in California participating in a golf tournament this week, so he's not even in the state as this fund's about ready to expire. So and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. The legislature says things will go back to status quo, which would be the governor could basically spend whatever they want and then kind of figure it out later. But I mean, with the balanced budget amendment, they know that they don't want that to happen. And so that's why they try to have this fund in place. And but it looks like there will be at least a period of time where this fund won't be there because the Senate would have to agree to any changes that the House makes. And the House is just starting its initial process on this bill on Monday with the deadline Monday, Tuesday there on this fund going away. So there's going to be almost no chance of this getting done on time. So, I mean, there's going to be at least a period, but at least the House proposal would be retroactive. So anything that would happen could eventually come out of this fund. It's just a matter of getting it to that point. Yeah, and we also saw that Republicans were on the same page amongst themselves in the Senate this week with a farm bill. A controversial section of the farm bill was taken out during its final committee stop this week. Let's take a look.
Non-disparagement clause in this year's Farm Bill had people across the state worried it would infringe on free speech. So a Senate committee simply uprooted it to the dismay of ag supporters.
So I would ask for you to not approve the amendment to the amendment.
The amendment passed unanimously to strip out an expansion of the non-disparagement clause that would have extended to any agriculture product or equipment.
That would have absolutely intimidated free speech here in the state of Florida.
People from across the state fill the Senate Rules Committee as the Florida Farm Bill heads towards final passage, now keeping the existing framework intact. Currently, non-disparagement applies only to perishable agricultural products and sets a lower legal bar than defamation.
You cannot lie about somebody and expect there to not be any consequence. That's the law. What we didn't want to have was a situation where people felt that they couldn't tell the truth.
Daniel Andrews from Fort Myers, who founded Captains for Clean Water, says the expanded clause would have opened the floodgates to litigation.
A mom knows that the food she's putting into her kids' mouths, if it's hurting them, she doesn't need to have the science.
Senate President Ben Albritton acknowledges the bill still has room to grow.
I would say the ag bill is a work in progress.
Senate Agriculture Committee Chair Keith Truenow, who is carrying the bill, maintains that expanding the non-disparagement clause makes practical sense for farmers.
I think that it worked for the last 30 plus years. I think that it's there, but you think about this. Farmers go to work every day with one thing in mind.
But Andrews knows this fight isn't fully harvested. With the Senate moving forward without the clause, it could still resurface.
We're remaining vigilant. There were comments about, diving back into this next year. So I think we need to realize this is not the end of the road.
This controversial section is still in the House bill, but it's expected to be taken out before the lower chamber does vote on it. But that work still needs to be done. At the Florida State Capitol, I'm Cody Butler reporting.
And just to let you know how rare this is the first time in the last few years I've been covering the legislature, I've seen an unfriendly amendment be adopted. Usually if there's an amendment, it's either from the sponsor or the sponsor agrees to the amendment beforehand. But this one was definitely a case that it got Senator Albritton there to the committee after the vote went through to see what was going on.
Looks like, Cody, that there's still a lot of room for change with this as it moves forward.
Yeah, there is still a lot of room. The House still needs to make it to its stops. Still, I think there might still be another stop in the House. This was the last one in the Senate before the full Senate gets on it. And there were attempts to change the language. Senator Martin out of Fort Myers, he's the one that was working on changing the language, but he wasn't quite satisfied with the direction, felt that they needed more time to get it right. So he just went ahead and moved to take it out, and very large committee unanimously agreed with him.
And Cody, I'm just curious what the catalyst for this was. I mean, it's something that they said had been working for 30 years. So why now?
Part of it is with the Make America Healthy Again movement. We're seeing a lot of people coming out and making some claims about food products. The guy that we talked to in that story, he said that his wife and kid were having some health issues. They changed their diet and everything went away. And so, but there's not necessarily anything scientifically backing that claim up. And so these people want to still make those claims like on social media or anything like that without with the way it is right now, they could go and say that no problem. With what was being proposed, these agricultural communities, companies could come back and sue these people. And so that's kind of where the balancing act was trying to kind of navigate between what these people are experiencing and kind of still protecting the ag industry from people just lying about their industry on social media.
Cody, excuse my ignorance on this, but has this clause ever been invoked? Has it ever been used successfully to quash somebody saying they hate orange juice or whatever?
I've not heard of any instance. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not out there, but I mean, it is a possibility. But like the bill sponsor said, farmers aren't thinking about suing people. They're thinking about waking up and providing food for us and drinks and stuff like that. So, I mean, this isn't top of mind for the farmers. And so it's not necessarily something that I don't know if it's been an issue before, but I mean, they put it in law back in the 90s for perishable food for some reason. And I don't know if it was just foresight or what, but I mean, I've not heard of that clause actually being taken advantage of.
And Cody, the Senate President, Albritton, as you mentioned, seemed frustrated with this action, and just how you kind of spoke to this, but how high a priority was this for farmers in terms of their wish list from Tallahassee this year, and what other things are maybe higher on the list for farmers still dealing with a number of issues from prior storms or drought or what have you? So what else do farmers want to see out of Tallahassee this session?
Yeah, this was definitely a priority for President Albritton. He's has the ag background, and it's rare for someone in leadership to show up to a committee meeting, and he showed up when this was going on. Very looked like that he was taken by surprise on this. Commissioner Simpson has been trying to push this through because it's the bill that relates to the ag department. So it's kind of one of those big comprehensive bills. So, I mean, there's still a lot of protection still going on. We have the rural renaissance that would help with farmers across the state. So they're still getting a lot. But with Farmer as Senate President over the last couple of years, they've been really hoping to get a lot more than normal.
Cody, do you sense that the rural renaissance bill will gain any traction in the House?
Oh, I've learned to not try to guess what's going on in the House, especially after this week, because there's still a lot of feuding going on between the House and the Senate. Actually, both chambers haven't really taken up the opposite chamber's priorities once it's been passed so far this session, and we're now past the halfway point, supposedly. So, I mean, we don't know, but Senator Albritton's not too concerned about rural renaissance because the one big, beautiful bill of DC kind of addressed a lot of that. So there's still going to be help for Florida farmers in some form, whether it's going to be from the federal government or the state government. But they're really hoping to push the state government support through this year as well.
And overall, how is the ag industry right now in the state? Are you getting a sense of that? I know that they have dealt with a lot with previous storms, and have tariffs impacted them at all?
Yeah, they've been kind of sucker punched. Like, we've had a lot of major storms go through rural parts of the state over the last few years, none this past year. But they're still kind of cleaning up with that. We've had the brutal cold weather, the record-setting cold here. So they're getting some federal support from that right now. There's an emergency order in place for that, some flooding as well. So they're still working towards kind of helping lift them up after some of the natural disasters or natural instances that we've had over the state of the last few years. All right, and that's all the time we have for this edition of Florida Politics Now. We'll be back with week 6 of the legislative session. So next week, see you then.